Talk from the Briggs Company. I'm Lisa Briggs and Gail Stroh, and we both work in the garden center. And I do want to say that you have a chance to win a gift card if you like or share or ask us a question or make a comment, either while we're live or up until tomorrow morning. If you are asking the question after the fact, if you're watching this as it has been posted. And last week's winner of a $10 gift card is Sherry Mader. So congratulations, Sherry.
Sherry.
And come on into the store and we will get your gift card for you. If you need us to mail it to you, then please reach out to us via Facebook Messenger and we'll get your contact information and get that out to you. So today we're going to talk about a little bit of fall prepping stuff. And so Gail's going to start us off. She's going to be talking about bulbs.
Well, now that the weather has cooled a little bit, it's probably time to think about starting to plant your bulbs. And so there are various things that might make your bulb planting a little easier. People sometimes can use this tool here, which is the handy dandy little bulb planter. It has a release handle here, so when you dig the soil, then you can release it.
That makes my wrist really tired.
Yeah,
it's awkward for me.
Yeah, but honestly, if you're planting, one bulb at a time, and you can, twist it out, and then release it. It's actually a nice, handy little tool to use. Otherwise, if you want to take the easy way out,
that's the way I go.
This is a really nice tool. This is what you can put into your drill and just drill down, and it'll pull the soil right out, make a nice neat little hole for you, and there you go. It's the Roto bulb planter drill bit. So
Matt Weaver and I once planted like 7,000 bulbs at a client's house up in Freedom. And we went through 3 battery packs.
I was going to say, just take a couple extra batteries with you.
We did, yes.
And this will be slick.
It is really
do a good job for you. And you don't even have to bend all the way over. You got to, just bend down. So that's pretty handy. So yes. And then after you drill your hole, it's a good idea to put some bulb fertilizer in the bottom of the hole. A couple tablespoons full, and then just mix it in with a little of the dirt. Put your bulb on top and put your soil on, and you're good to go. However, don't forget, if you have squirrels and they like to dig in your soil, then you want to put some repellent or something to deter them from digging them out right away.
Yeah.
Because squirrels will think you loosened that soil just for them.
And I have found that if you leave those, especially tulip husks on the ground, those are like breadcrumbs.
Invitation.
For Hansel and Gretel.
Yep.
Yeah, come and get them. I have found though that if you are interplanting with things that they don't like tulips and daffs, or you're adding in some fritillarias or something, that the smell will sometimes keep them away.
Sure, that's a good idea.
You can also, if you're doing patches, if you dig out a patch and then broadcast your bulbs, you can lay a little chicken wire over that part. Yes. And then the bulbs and then put the soil on, the bulbs will come up through the chicken wire.
Right.
And then the squirrels can't get to them.
Sure. Or if you at least leave the boards on until the ground freezes, then you can pick them up, and they'll probably leave them alone.
Yeah.
They
are so pesky. And we have a question from Carrie Jo. Carrie Jo wants to know about our house plants that are outside. So yes, Carrie, they do need to be treated for bugs. There are all kinds of creatures, especially like aphids and whitefly, that can attack your house plants when they're outside. It's not such a big deal outside, but if you bring them in and you haven't treated them, then a tiny little problem can become a giant problem.
Right.
So I think certainly it's going to be chilly this week. You're going to want to spray them down, hose them down with water. You could apply some insecticidal soap or a mild soap solution.
Neem.
Yeah,
and even my pyrethrin would be good. So any of those things, if you can do it while they're still outside, it's less messy than
otherwise. Put them in your shower. That's super helpful.
And then there are also, I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, the tablets, the systemic tablets you can put in.
I would definitely do those, because generally you want to treat them outside, and then maybe 10 days later you want to treat them again, especially for insects like aphids that have a quick turnaround.
Right.
So I would definitely use a systemic as well, so you can take care of any of the eggs that might be hanging around in your soil.
And the other thing that sometimes is a nuisance when you bring the plants in, you might get fungus gnats.
Yes.
And that's that little kind of fruit fly-like insect that's buzzing around and annoying you. Those are insects that lay their eggs in the soil. The little larval form hatches out in the soil, and then they come out and fly around and just annoy you. So a couple things that you can do to prevent that. You can, first of all, try not overwatering your plants when you bring them in. That helps a lot. And also, there's a substance, biological control, that is a granular little thing you put on top of the soil called mosquito bits.
Oh, sure.
And it releases into the soil and it kills the larvae, so they don't even emerge. And it's safe. It doesn't hurt people or pets or children. It's just totally.
You can also use the sticky traps
You can
too.
use the
They're
sticky
super
traps, too.
attracted to those, and
Yep.
then you just
Yep. So there are a
throw it
couple
away.
options, but fungus gnats, don't let fungus gnats in.
yeah, they're not hurting your plants. They are annoying though.
Okay.
Oh, Taylor's doing the thing. He has a question. Oh, John Lynch. And so we know John because John used to work at the Bruce Company, and now he lives down south. And John, an armadillo digging up their garden. Yes, Repelsol will work for your armadillo, John. It even has a little armadillo right
on the
label.
right there, armadillo. So yes, you can use a repellent for those, just like you can for other critters, and it should make them not feel comfortable in the area that you're using.
I wonder if armadillo are more bothered by the granular or the liquid. Because I have found like liquid works much better for deer than granule, and then vice versa for rodents. But I wonder where an
That's a good
armadillo
question.
falls into the
I'm
spectrum.
not sure if they dig more or if they are destroying the bulbs more. So
Yeah,
that's a
John,
good question.
you should try both, John, and then you should let us know.
Yeah, if they're digging the bulb out and then eating the bulb, it would be good to spray the bulbs before you plant them, and then maybe put the granular on top of the soil to make them
Okay.
not dig them out.
I would like a controlled study though.
Yeah.
So John, you could do that.
You can
for
give us more information on that.
Absolutely. So now we're going to talk about. Oh, Taylor's got a question. When do you treat for grubs, Gail? Japanese beetles. They get Japanese beetles in the summer. So
Right now, most of the Japanese beetles should be done for the season. They should be done laying eggs.
yeah.
So that's the good news. But a lot of those eggs did hatch, and the grubs are still active underneath the soil, eating grass roots.
right.
So there is a grub killer right now, the 24-hour grub killer that can be applied. You can put it on your lawn, comes in a bag, covers 5,000 square feet. Put it on with a fertilizer spreader, water it in, and it will kill the grubs that are under the ground chewing on your grass roots right now. However, don't wait too long to do that, because once it starts the soil gets cold, they will burrow down deeper, and then you can't get at them until spring. So
Now,
I would say you probably have a couple weeks.
Will that control work in the spring, or will you have to reapply then?
If you kill them now, if you kill all those young ones that
Sure.
are hatched out now, you should have pretty good control, and you shouldn't have to reapply that in spring. But next spring, what I would put on is then a season-long control.
Sure. Right.
So probably about late May or June, you apply the season-long control, the one that lasts for 4 months, and then that one will take you all the way through the season for next
Or
year.
milky spore.
Or milky spore. Yes,
Yeah.
that'd be your organic option.
Okay,
Correct.
cool. Another question. Taylor's waving. Okay. Anne, would spraying her indoor plants with a light mixture of Dawn and water get rid of fruit flies too?
Fruit flies on the plants, or maybe we're talking fungus gnats.
I think she's talking about fungus gnats.
If they're looking like fruit flies and they're around your plants, I bet they're fungus gnats. Most likely that isn't going, well, fungus gnats aren't really landing on the plant and eating the
Yeah.
plant so much. What they're doing is they're feeding, the young ones feed on organic matter before they emerge from the soil.
Right.
So they're not really eating your plant. They're just annoying you until
Yes.
they die.
Yes.
So
Spraying
I would say using the granules, mosquito bit granules in the soil, or possibly using the sticky traps. Honestly, the sticky traps are probably your best bet if they're flying around or buzzing around. by
Yeah,
your
I
plants.
would say so too.
If you have fruit flies though in your kitchen, there are fruit fly traps. They're little jars that have a bait that you put in them, and that would be a different
But
situation.
if they're fruit flies, they're eating your fruit. They're not eating your plant.
And when you're talking about applying Dawn to your plants, we always caution people to maybe not use dish detergent. Sometimes dish detergents are too harsh and they can burn tender foliage. You're much better off getting insecticidal soap.
I
It's
agree,
made
yeah.
for putting on plants.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a busy question day, Gail. Is it too late to plant perennials? No, it is not too late to plant perennials.
Good timing.
It's really good timing. I would say though that I would definitely use a root stimulator to get them rooted in, and I would also apply a good layer of mulch after the ground freezes to keep them from being heaved up and out of the soil.
Right.
If we get a freeze-thaw cycle like we have had the last couple of winters, those plants that aren't really rooted in can be pushed up out of the soil, and then the roots are exposed, and then
And there's
That's
still
not good for
time.
them.
There's still time to do things like dividing daylilies, dividing
Yes.
hostas,
Pastas, yeah.
digging up rhubarb and transplanting
You
peonies.
can move peonies now. I was just
Mhm.
going to say peonies
So
now.
absolutely, you have probably about a month. The ground won't freeze typically for us maybe till sometime in November. So you have some time.
And it's a good time to plant trees and shrubs too. Although
Absolutely.
evergreens, I think you're getting a little close. Evergreens, I would definitely use a root stimulator. And you're going to want to be sure that you water in really well. Anything, good soak every couple of weeks until the ground freezes. Anything that you're planting in now. And we're going to segue right into winter tree care.
That's right.
That was perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then actually, when you were talking about evergreens, the other tip I like to let people know about is something called wilt proof.
Yes.
Evergreens that have been newly planted or transplanted this year, sometimes because they haven't thoroughly rooted in, they have a hard time absorbing enough moisture to sustain the needles through the winter. Wilt proof is an anti-desiccant spray that you apply to the needles. You can use this on evergreens like spruce trees, rhododendrons. It really works well on rhododendrons. Because what it does is it's a pine resin. It coats the leaves or the needles and holds in more moisture than if you wouldn't use this. It just helps them hold a little bit more moisture so they don't dry out as easily, especially when we get into the late winter.
Yes.
February, March, the sun is getting stronger. They're exposed to wind. This really does help for that.
The
situation.
other thing that wilt proof is really good for is when we get into Christmas decorating and you're putting out fresh garland and wreaths, especially if you have a door on the sunny side of your house and you want a wreath on there. Wilt proof is awesome for helping your evergreen decorations not dry out as quickly.
So we'll remind you about this when we get to that point again.
Yes, we
right?
will talk
Good
about holiday decorating
Very good product.
soon because we've already started here at the store. So we'll be all over that. So as we're talking about sort of fall and winter prep for your trees, there are a couple things you want to do for any of your newly planted things. So we talked about watering. You want to make sure they get a good soak every couple of weeks. And then you want to protect plants that are new. So one of the things are for young trees is they have that really thin, tender bark. And the last couple of years, we have seen a lot of girdling. And so what that is it's a deer or a rabbit or a mouse or a vole scrapes away the bark all around the trunk of your tree or branches on a shrub to get that tender green tissue that's underneath, and the tree can't get any moisture or nutrients past that point. It's like you put a huge stop sign all around it. So there are a couple things you can do. If you have rabbit issues, you can certainly use, this is just paper wrap. It's really easy to use. It's in rolls. And you just want to wrap it all the way around, and you can kind of tuck it in or fasten it with a piece of tape. This works well for rabbits. If you've got deer, you want something that's a little bit more protective. So this is just a spiral. It's a plastic tree guard. Goes on really easily. If you have problems with buck rub, then you'd want to break out the big guns. This is like a corrugated tube, and it's split. So you can just slip this right over the trunk, and this is very protective. Keeps everything away. Now, if you have a vole problem, that's a little bit different. You're going to want to get some hardware cloth and maybe dig it down just a little bit because they are at the base of the trunk. Make sure that your mulch is not up against the trunk. It makes a really safe, cozy place for them to hang out. So pull that mulch back 6 or 8 inches, and it'll be less attractive to them for hanging out. If you haven't mulched, be sure to mulch. That's a really good thing to do. Helpful. Will hold the soil moisture. And as as we get into these cold nights, where you might have some things out that are planted out that are still looking really good, pansies or mums, and you want to get a couple extra weeks out of them. This is a floating row cloth. We love these. It's a spun poly. It's really lightweight. Light goes through it. We use these in the garden center, especially in the spring when we're going to get a frost predicted. We cover perennials and Japanese maples, all the stuff that comes from the West Coast with this. It's also good for protecting veg and fruit from insect predators or in the when the fruit is ripe. It's also really good at this time of year to protect against early frosts.
It gives you a couple extra degrees of warmth So if we have those nights when it gets down to 33, 32, it's going to give you just a couple extra degrees so that you can protect those plants and enjoy them a little bit longer.
Especially if, if there's going to be a couple of cold nights and then the temperature's going to go back up again and you want those pansy flowers to keep on blooming, get a floating row cover. They are really inexpensive and they have tons of garden uses.
Right.
So I keep mine out handy from late March till fall. And then you just fold them up and
even for Japanese beetles, they work.
Yeah, they are great for Japanese beetles.
And for the people who have planted blueberries this year, which just a note, remember that rabbits are very attracted to your blueberry bushes, the wood and everything.
Yeah, they'll eat them back to
put
nothing.
some kind of structure around your plants, whether it's chicken wire or a fence, because otherwise the rabbits will chew your blueberries to the ground.
I will say also, if you planted new burning bushes, all of you who lost your burning bushes last year and decided to replace them this year, rabbits love burning bushes. They also love witch alder or fothergilla. We don't sell a ton of those, but it's also a really favorite winter food for rabbits. So
just a heads up on those.
Yeah, chicken wire around them. Put a couple stakes in the ground, and then you can just do a cone of chicken wire
giant
around
cylinder of chicken wire.
Yeah, that'll
be a really good idea. Helpful.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now we're going to talk about pond winterizing.
Okay.
So
a couple things to think about when the weather starts to get cooler. Right now, it's probably not going to freeze over for at least a month or so.
Yeah.
But just to keep in mind that you may want to start doing things like cleaning up your plants that are in the pond. When it starts to get cold like this, you can cut all the foliage down to the top of the pot and sink the pots, the hardy ones, down into the bottom of your pond, and they'll winter over very nicely down in the deepest part of your pond. But you want to get those leaves out of there before they decompose, because all of that's just going to make your water
something else
much
I
sturdier.
use my floating row cover for. Is I put this over the top of my pond so that when the leaves drop, it catches the leaves. So after you've taken a nice Saturday in the fall and your pond water isn't freezing and you clean that thing out, and then the next thing you know, the ginkgo tree that's over the pond drops all those leaves. So put a floating row cover over your pond while your trees are defoliating.
Right, and we have pond netting too. So if you want to just put the black pond netting on, it lays on top of the pond, and it just, you secure it around the edges. You hardly even see it because it blends right in.
This is kind of showy.
Yeah, and that will kind of keep the leaves, then you can just
lift it up
and if you tighten it down around the edges, it actually can stay above the water a little bit and it'll just blow right off. But it helps to keep those leaves out of the water.
So what about fish, Gail?
When it starts to get cold and it does start to freeze over, then we want to think about using a pond deicer. And this is just a little heater cylinder that it floats in the pond, has a cord. You have to run the cord to an electrical outlet, but this will keep just an air hole open in the pond. And what that allows is for gas exchange, oxygen and gas exchange out from the pond and oxygen back into the pond. So the fish, even though they're dormant and they're not really using a lot of oxygen, will have enough oxygen to survive the winter when the ice has frozen over. So that's an important thing to do just shortly before the pond freezes over. The other thing we have, I don't know if I can lift this one off, this is heavy. This is a pond aerator. And what this does is it's like a pump, and it has a